Good evening. I'm Carolyn Trimble of the League of Women Voters of Champaign County. On behalf of the League of Women Voters, the NAACP, the News Gazette, I welcome you to tonight's candidate forum. Tonight's forum is for Champaign City Council District 4. Because of the COVID-19 pandemic, we are unfortunately not presenting this forum in person. We've received many questions for these forums. Similar questions which have been submitted have been collated or consolidated, and consequently, your question may not be asked in precisely the way you submitted it. Due to limited time, we may not be able to get to all the submitted questions. After the forum, this video will be available on the League's YouTube channels and Facebook page in a few days. You can also find this video in the Nonpartisan Voters Guide at votechampaign.org. Each forum will be linked to the candidates' information. It will also be broadcast by UPTV. The UPTV schedule is available on the City of Urbana website. I will be the moderator for this forum. The order for candidates is alphabetical. Therefore, Michael Fulmer begins and Greg Stock is second. As we close, again, Michael will begin the closing statements and Greg will get to have the last word. Each candidate will be given 2 minutes for an opening statement. I will then ask questions submitted prior to the forum, and candidates will each have 1 minute to answer those questions. At the end, each candidate will have 2 minutes for a closing statement. Candidates will kindly refrain from any negative attacks on the other candidate, will not mention the other candidate by name, and will speak only to what they plan to do if elected to office. Okay, and Mr. Fulmer will begin.
Are you ready? Oh, sorry.
The first question. What is the most
Opening statement, Caroline.
Oh, sorry. Opening statement. Go ahead, Mr. Fulmer.
All right. Well, first and foremost, I want to thank the League of Women Voters, the NAACP, and the News Gazette for hosting this forum. And of course, to my colleague, Mr. Stock. I know you said no naming names, but I do want to say thanks for joining us in what I'm sure will be a fruitful discussion of the issues voters care about. So I spent a long time trying to figure out what I was going to say, but I thought I would at least give a quick introduction to anyone who doesn't know me. So I grew up a son of 2 teachers. I moved to Central Illinois about 15 years ago to attend college at Eastern Illinois University and the University of Illinois. I completed my bachelor's in economics and a master's in higher education, both from U of I. After a few years of serving in office support roles on campus, I transitioned to assistant director of the labor education program, where I loved my job. I loved working with organized labor throughout the state and much of the Midwest. Most recently, as of October 2019, I became an academic advisor, and I currently work with future teachers in the College of Education. So all of this is fine, but you might be wondering why the heck I would want to serve on city council. I have lots of reasons of why I want to serve the people of the city of Champaign. But first and foremost, I love this place. It's such a vibrant and exciting community, but I don't think that I have to tell many people that. And of course, this is why me and my husband have chosen to build a home and build our family here. As a cis, white, gay guy in a fairly LGBTQ friendly city, I can't say I struggle to feel a sense of belonging, but as someone who recognizes my privilege as well as an understanding of what it feels like to be an outsider, I know that we can do better, and that's what I'm here to do. As current acting treasurer of Uniting Pride, I understand what it means to be loyal to our constituents, to volunteers outside of to volunteer hours outside of standard work hours, and to be committed to making change happen, even when it's an uphill climb. I'm here to learn, I'm here to listen, and I'm here to fight for the most vulnerable. I want to be your next progressive neighborhood voice on the Champaign City Council.
Okay, thank you. And Greg Stock.
I was muted. Okay, thank you. Yeah, I also want to kind of start off by thanking the league and News Gazette, the NAACP, and any other sponsors, and you, the volunteers, for stepping up. I know this is no easy task, so I appreciate that. And Mr. Fulmer, I appreciate you as well. Stepping up. I agree with you. It's going to lead to, I think, a good discussion for probably both of us. So I think that's an important fact for sure. A little bit of background about me. I have been in Champaign for about 27 years. I attended ISU and got a bachelor's degree in history, and am now a social studies teacher and department chair at Centennial High School, where I've been for the past 27 years. In addition to that, I've gone back to the U of I and gotten a master's in educational administration, and as well as a master's degree in library and information sciences. So I am a alumni of University of Illinois as well, and a product of the College of Education, Ms. Fulmer. At any rate, I've been involved. I was thinking about this earlier. I have been involved with the city of Champaign in some form or fashion for just about 20 years now. I served on the Historic Preservation Commission in the early 2000s for about 8 or 9 or 10 years. I was on the Police and Fire Commission after that for not very long, until I joined the City Council, I think just about 5 years ago. So I'm running for re-election. As I said, I'm also a realtor. I'm also a property owner. So I feel like I bring a lot of, between school and those things and just my city background. I'm also on the library board. I feel like I bring a lot of different perspectives that to the council that some people may have, but I feel like I kind of hit a lot of different categories as far as perspectives that I think of, just outlook that I bring to the city council. Overall, I'm pretty proud of what we've done as a council and as a city. I think we're one of the few cities in the state of Illinois that's growing. But I look forward to the discussion, to continuing the discussion tonight. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, both of you. So we will start with Michael Fulmer for the first question. What is the most important issue facing the city today, and how would you address that issue?
I think this is a very important question. I think that the most important issue facing us is the increase in gun violence. I think that our city has, approached gun violence in a variety of ways, but I think that we can certainly do better, continuing to work with groups like CU Trauma and Resilience, groups like First Followers, or like the blanking on names, of course, but like the DREAM program. So, we have a lot of groups that I think are available to address gun violence, but I think we can do better as a city to listen to the folks in our community, to understand how they think that we should address these issues.
Okay, thank you. And Greg?
Okay. Yeah, I would agree. And it's an interesting question, because right now I feel like our most pressing concern or most important issue is COVID and getting out from under COVID and kind of getting our lives back to normal, whatever that new normal is, because there are definitely some economic implications for that, for our citizens, for our city, for the services we provide. If that were off the table, however, a year ago, I would have answered the exact same thing, and I would have said gun violence. I think that we are trying to put resources into programs like Goal Getters and Fresh Start, and working with groups such as First Followers and Operation Hope and so forth. The problem is there's no magic solution, right? And if there was, we would probably market that and take it on the road. So that's our biggest challenge, is trying to find out what a solution is. And unfortunately, I've asked staff numerous times, as we look at other communities, what are they having success with? And most downstate communities are in the exact same situation we are. So we're all sort of in this boat of trying to find a solution that really helps. And I think that we just need to keep working and with other initiatives such as the LIFT project, which I'll maybe talk about later.
Okay, thank you. Second question, what are the other important issues, or maybe you can pick the second most important issue? And again, how would you tackle the issue that you've identified? And for this one, we start with Greg.
Okay. Certainly lots of issues. One of the things that I think several of us are concerned with, and I know I am, is just the general issue of neighborhood wellness and the general issue of what are we doing to keep healthy neighborhoods healthy, and what are we doing to try to bring back neighborhoods, revitalize neighborhoods that have maybe struggled in the past. So that's certainly an issue that I think we need to keep on the forefront, because I think it impacts quality of life for citizens all across the city, and certainly the residents of those neighborhoods for sure. So, and we've talked about, whether that's increasing funding for and staffing for neighborhood services and doing outreach. Again, we're sort of in this quandary with COVID about outreach and how much can you do in our virtual world, and as we try to connect with groups and neighborhoods and so forth. But I think we're making some progress. I'm hopeful that we can continue to make some progress once we can start having those neighborhood leader meetings and those kinds of things to try to work on being proactive about our neighborhood issues.
Okay, thank you. Michael?
Yeah, so I think that as Greg mentioned, I think that there are definitely important issues that we need to talk about related to neighborhood wellness. But I think that kind of along with that, critically, is our neighborhoods of color. So folks who are struggling to feel supported in our city, who we have not done the greatest job of providing support to. We talk a lot about health and safety of our neighborhoods, but I think that as we've heard from a lot of our citizens in a variety of settings, both at city council, at the police listening sessions, that folks have a lot of concerns about being respected and being supported. So I think that addressing and lifting up those who are most vulnerable is probably the thing that we all need to be focused on, that we all need to be addressing at this time.
Okay, thank you. So for the third question, we'll start with Michael. Could you describe your district in terms of its populations and its needs? And what would you say is the biggest need in your district?
Sure. So our district is very unique in that we have a lot of different, our neighborhoods are very different. And talking with neighbors recently, I've heard from, everyone who I've talked to has had such a wide range of concerns. Folks here near Clark Park, for example, are very concerned about historic preservation. I'm very proud that this is a district that has the sesquicentennial neighborhood in it that's celebrating their history. So I think that in terms of our demographics, I think it's really important that we stay focused on listening to each neighborhood and understanding the needs of each neighborhood. So going to those neighborhoods and having conversations with folks and understanding what they need and how we as a council can support their goals as a neighborhood.
Okay, thank you. Greg?
Yeah, I would agree. I know that we all on council think that the districts are very diverse and so forth, and they are to some extent, but I think District 4 is probably the most diverse. You know, it ranges from Windsor to Bradley and Neal to Mattis roughly, so it's got every demographic possible, from older houses to newer houses to larger houses to smaller houses to different people, different income brackets, everything. So there's no one good answer to that because the district is so diverse. And I think that that it really is kind of a neighborhood by neighborhood kind of issue. I have, you know, I get contacted from some people. I've gone to neighborhood meetings to talk about crime issues in their neighborhood. I've gone to others to Clark Park and with preservation issues, the Sesquicentennial Washington Street neighborhood, same kind of concerns about development and what that looks like in their neighborhood or how that might impact their neighborhood, to drainage issues in West Washington. And I think we finally hit the third phase of the West Washington Drainage District, which is a huge victory for the folks in that part of the area. So it's really pretty varied in terms of the needs of the district because it's such a widely diverse district in literally every category.
Okay, question number 4, and this time we'll start with Greg. Are there any infrastructure needs in your district, and which are the most important?
Okay, yes. that's just, there's lots of infrastructure needs. Again, kind of back to that whole diversity of the district. District 4 is literally the donut hole of the city of Champaign, which means there's not a whole lot of new stuff in the district in terms of housing and streets particularly. So the infrastructure, the drainage was probably the biggest infrastructure need for sure. But now that at least the Washington and John Street watersheds have been dealt with for the most part, it's not, to me at least, it's down to streets. And I get a lot of complaints about, you know, just aging streets. And we have an index that the Public Works Department keeps about basically grading the streets and when they need to get replaced and so forth. And I think that a pretty good hunk of those streets that are on the lowest grade are in District 4, simply because it is the oldest part of the city of Champaign for the most part. So it definitely has more infrastructure needs than probably most districts. And certainly there are areas without sidewalks, there are areas without lighting, although I would argue that there are some other areas of the city outside of District 4 that are in much greater need of those things than District 4 is necessarily.
Okay, Michael?
Yeah, similarly, I think that Mr. Stuck has really hit on the key issues here. I think what I think though that is important, and I may start to sound like a broken record here a little bit, is that we as city council are entrusted to bring the voice of our neighborhoods to city council, right? So if the goal of the neighborhood is to address sidewalk and lighting, then that should be our goal as a city council, is supporting that neighborhood in that goal. So I think that as we work through infrastructure concerns, I think you know, obviously we have to address the things that are critical, you know, flooding and streets. But I do hope that as a city council member, I can really talk to folks and understand, okay, what are the infrastructure goals that you all have as a community, as a neighborhood, and how can we help you reach that goal?
Okay, thank you. So question number 5, and we'll start again with Michael. What are the most important changes that need to be made in the Champaign Police Department?
Yeah, so thank you for this question. I think this is really important. We've spent a lot of time listening to citizens who have concerns about our police department. We've heard a lot about issues of trust, issues of not feeling like folks can call the police and have a safe response. So I really think it's critical that we include our communities to help us better respond to issues, particularly nonviolent issues, non-criminal issues. We have lots of folks in our communities who want to be here, who want to be able to help our communities, people like social workers, people like, who are trained in response for mental health issues. So, there are lots of other opportunities for us to look at investing in having other folks who might respond to serious situations.
Okay, and Greg?
Okay, so yeah, very important question that I think is on everybody's mind to some extent. And I think one of the biggest things that we need to do with the police department, both here and elsewhere, is just building trust. And this idea of building trust between the citizens and the police, and that can be done with and trying to build positive relationships, whether that's community policing and having people living or working in the community in which they're serving would be a piece to that. But certainly the idea of getting people comfortable with dealing with the police and continuing with police training. As I look at the new criminal justice bill, for example, a lot of the things in it we were already doing. So I feel like we're ahead of the curve compared to a lot of places in terms of like body cameras and some of our use of force policies and so forth. Does that mean we're perfect? Absolutely not. And we need to keep working on building trust with the community, and I think that can pay some dividends in a lot of different ways, which we can talk about. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And for question number 6, we start with Greg. Urbana has a project where they are attempting to find other ways to respond to police calls for service rather than automatically sending a police officer. What do you think of that program, and could such a program be implemented in Champaign?
Yeah, I think so. I'm intrigued by the concept of the program for sure. We haven't heard a lot about it. I think that's going to come to council later on. When we had our police study session just a few weeks ago, that was one of the things that was alluded to was the Urbana program. And there's questions, and I know that there are people that are want to get us going. We don't want to wait for Urbana, and we want to get something moving right now. And I understand that. But I do think, though, I like the program. I think that having a varied approach. I think we also have to be very conscious, though, and the average person hasn't done a ride along with a police officer and done on a lot of police calls. But if you have, you also realize that those calls can go sideways really fast. And I think we've also got to be cognizant of that fact and making sure that if we implement social workers and mental health professionals and so forth, which I think is a good idea, but we also have to make sure that they're protected as well, because things can escalate rather quickly in certain kinds of situations like domestics and stuff like that. So I like the idea of kind of a post-care sort of thing as well, which is I think what the sheriff's office is doing with some follow-up after calls to try to prevent future calls as well.
Okay, thank you. For question 7, we'll start with Michael and Greg.
I didn't answer that.
Okay. Discipline of police officers.
Carolyn,
I
I don't think Michael got a chance to answer the last one.
Sorry.
That's okay. That's okay.
I'm
No,
just
so
reading
what's that?
I'm just reading ahead. Okay, go ahead.
I know. You're trying to get us out of here earlier. Yeah, so I really am interested in hearing more about the program in front of Urbana, the One Door program. Is that right? Yeah, I'm starting to get my thanks. So yeah, I am very interested in hearing more about how we could implement something like that. I think I hear the concerns, but I also think that if folks know that when they call for an emergency situation, when they're having a mental health crisis and police aren't going to show up, I think that could be really trust building. We talked a lot about trust, and so understanding that that you're not going to be put in handcuffs for having a mental health crisis is really important. As someone who has dealt with mental health crises and who has suffered from them, I personally would have appreciated not having police officers called.
Okay, thank you, thank you. Discipline of police officers has been much discussed. Do you think police discipline needs to be changed, and how? So Michael, this one is for you first.
Yeah, I certainly think that we can do better as a city and as an organization as a whole. I think there's always room for improvement, particularly on the issue of discipline. When we look at our citizen groups that review and understand what's happening in the police force, I think that we should rely on our citizenry to understand what the issues are that they're seeing, and how we can do better as a city to really reinforce that this is a place that takes safety of everyone very seriously.
Okay, Greg?
Yeah, I agree. There's certainly always room for improvement. There's no question of that. The question is, though, is you also have to work within labor laws, labor contracts, FOP contracts, and so forth. And that's where it really gets sticky. I mean, I've sat in the back room and dealt with lawsuits and dealt with potential dismissals of employees or discipline where our hands were tied, which is really, really, really frustrating, to say the least. So I think it's just a matter, though, of working within those parameters and creating systems. And really, it maybe is about training, and it's about hiring practices and making sure that we're hiring people that maybe aren't going to be in those situations, or we're training people to make sure that they're reacting responsibly and appropriately in situations. So I think with that training and hiring piece, that maybe we can avoid situations where that we've had in the past in terms of some of the disciplinary issues.
Okay, thank you. And Greg, we'll start this one with you again. What role do you think a civilian review board should play? And what rights, such as subpoenaing pocket officers or their discipline records, should a civilian review board have?
I was waiting for this one. So the Citizens Review Board is an interesting scenario. I'm glad that we finally have it. It took years and years and years to get that put into place. I think we've had some, what's the word I want to use? I think there's been some controversy a little bit as to how powerful it should be, or what exactly the role should be of the Citizens Review Subcommittee. As written is my understanding, and I wasn't there when it was passed, but as I've read the ordinance, you know, the idea is to review the citizen complaints. Are there ways we can improve doing that? Yes. I will be real honest, I'm not willing to give them subpoena power at this point in time, because I don't think that was really what the intent of the Citizens Review Subcommittee was when it was created by previous council members.
Okay, Michael?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
Sure. What role do you think a civilian review board should play? And what rights, such as subpoenaing pocket officers or their discipline records, should a civilian review board have?
Yeah, so I definitely think that you know, we have to better define their role and how we move forward with recommendations and things like that. But I do think that it's really important that they have the ability to make recommendations around things like training, how we can improve the way our officers are understanding their jobs, and understanding how to best serve our community, as as citizens who are responsible for letting us know where we're failing at the police force, I think that they can do a very good job at identifying and helping us as a city identify other professionals who might be able to support and do a better job of training our officers.
Okay, we have come to not the end of our question by any means, but the end of our time. So you now each have a 2-minute closing. Michael will go first and Greg will go second, having the last word.
Great. Thank you so much again for having us. I really appreciate this opportunity. Despite those 1-minute warnings being very short, I have really enjoyed talking to folks. I hope that, if nothing else, I hope that anyone who has questions or who wants to reach out to me feels welcome to do that. I'm here to serve our neighborhoods. I'm here to listen to people. I'm here to learn. By no means do I vouch for knowing everything that's before us or knowing every issue or challenge, but I am here to listen and to represent the folks in our neighborhoods, to help them reach their goals, to help our community members feel supported and respected, and just giving folks an opportunity to be at the table, right? So if we can work as a city council to bring up our most vulnerable citizens, to encourage everyone to be able to experience the vibrant and exciting community that we live in, I think then we as a council have done our jobs. And I think that that job will not end. And I hope that anyone will come to me and talk to me about the issues in their neighborhoods and the things that they see every day. Again, I don't say that I will have an answer to everything, but I will listen, and I certainly will bring anyone's voice forward that I talk with. So thank you so much, all of you, for your time and for listening to us today.
Okay, Greg?
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Carolyn. Thank you, Ed. Thank you, Jonna, who had to juggle everyone's schedules. So I appreciate the league and all the work you've done for this as well. Yeah, and thank you again, Mr. Fulmer, for being here. I could do this for another hour or two. This has been kind of fun, actually. But I do just kind of want to wrap up and say, I've enjoyed the last 5 years of representing District 4. I like to think at least that I've been responsive to the citizens of District 4. If I get a call or an email or whatever, I try to jump on it as quickly as I can and work with staff and try to solve problems, because ultimately at the end of the day, that's what we do, or we should be doing, is solving problems. So I think my experience with city issues is certainly helpful, is not just knowing who to call, but knowing, where to call, and knowing what are some issues that might come up as a result of, a lot of times you solve one problem and create two more. So being able to think through those issues and being able to think through how to solve problems with what you have to work with. So I think my experience is helpful. I'm dedicated to the city of Champaign. I actually applied for a city council seat 2 different times over the last 20 years before I was ever actually on council. So I've been trying to get on. It took me years to get on council. So so anyway, so I think that experience and that responsiveness and that dedication, I think, has served the citizens of District 4 well in the last 5 years. I think we've done, I think that at the end of the day, it's about doing the work, and it's about making Champaign a better place. And, which goes beyond the egos and the mic drops and it's about working together. And I think overall, we've worked well together as a council. And I think it would be good to continue that as we try to, again, just keep improving the city and pick up where we left off pre-COVID and keep taking things to the next level with issues from everyone across the city, for sure. So thank you again for the opportunity tonight.
Okay, thank you to both of our candidates, Michael Fulmer and Greg Stack. Thanks again to the League of Women Voters of Champaign County. the NAACP, and the News Gazette for sponsoring this forum. Thanks to our timer, Ed Roy, who has kept us on schedule. A very special thanks to Jonathan Brems, who put this series of forums together. Again, you can find all the voter information on votechampaign.org, and the forums will be linked to the candidates' information and broadcast by UPTV. In addition, it's not too late to register to vote for the April 6th election. Information is available at the Champaign County Clerk's website. Please vote. Vote by mail, vote early, or vote on April 6th. Because turnout is expected to be light, please check your polling place for April 6th and please vote. Visit votechampaign.org for more candidate information. Thank you.